Country's top soldier describes the proposal as a work in progress and one that will potentially be presented to the federal government in the coming months.
Where NATO was basically telling all of its members to be ready in one capacity or another to fight some kind of conventional conflict if that ever happens.
Go up the hill right to the crest.
Internal documents obtained by SkyJet Wings indicate that Canada's Department of National Defence is developing a proposal for a large-scale expansion of military mobilization. The documents suggest preparations for the potential integration of hundreds of thousands of reservists and civilian volunteers, signaling a significant shift in force generation planning. According to senior defense officials, the proposal remains preliminary. Canada's Chief of the Defence Staff characterizes it as a work in progress, emphasizing that it has not yet been formally presented to the federal government, but could be advanced for consideration in the coming months. This framing underscores both the scale of the concept and the uncertainty surrounding its eventual scope, cost, and political feasibility. If pursued, the plan would represent one of the most ambitious mobilization efforts in modern Canadian history, raising questions about recruitment capacity, training infrastructure, legal authorities, and long-term strategic intent. It also reflects broader pressures on Western militaries to reassess readiness in an increasingly unstable global security environment. Murray Brewster has been examining the documents and their implications and joins us now from Ottawa with further analysis. So, Murray, where is this proposal coming from? It certainly sounds highly ambitious. It is ambitious, Andrew, and its origins are traceable to the 2024 NATO summit. At that meeting, NATO leadership pressed member states to reassess their readiness for a potential large-scale conventional conflict, explicitly moving beyond the assumption that future wars would be limited, short, or purely asymmetric. Canada's proposal should be read as a response to that strategic recalibration. What makes this effort notable is how long such planning has been absent. Canada has not maintained a comprehensive mobilization framework for decades, arguably since the Cold War. During that period, defense planners largely assumed that any direct confrontation between major powers would escalate rapidly to nuclear exchange, rendering traditional mass mobilization impractical or irrelevant. As a result, institutional knowledge, legal frameworks, and logistical mechanisms for large-scale mobilization atrophied. In that sense, the Department of National Defense is effectively rebuilding capacity from near zero. The documents indicate early-stage planning aimed at re-establishing how the state could draw on reservists and civilians in the event of a major emergency or national catastrophe. This is not yet an operational plan, but a conceptual foundation for one. What more do we know about the contents of the materials? Date from last summer and represent preliminary work rather than finalized policy. They outline initial thinking around how reserve forces could be expanded and integrated, but they stop short of specifying timelines or activation thresholds. To put the scale in context, Canada's regular force currently numbers approximately 68,000 personnel. Military leadership has stated a long-term goal of increasing that figure to around 85,000. The mobilization proposal exists alongside rather than replacing that objective, suggesting that planners see reserve and civilian capacity as a necessary supplement rather than a substitute for a larger standing force. Taken together, the documents suggest a defense establishment grappling with structural constraints, limited personnel, aging infrastructure, and a strategic environment that no longer supports assumptions of prolonged warning or minimal involvement. What remains unresolved is whether the political system is prepared to support the legal, financial, and societal commitments such a mobilization would require. In addition to the regular force, Canada currently maintains roughly 30,000 reservists, a number the military hopes to expand to 100,000. However, the most consequential element outlined in these documents is the proposed creation of a 300,000-person supplemental reserve. This force would consist of lightly trained civilians, effectively citizen soldiers, intended to be activated in extreme national emergencies.
The documents themselves underscore how formidable this undertaking would be. Experts consulted described the proposal as the most demanding institutional challenge the Canadian Armed Forces has faced since the end of the Cold War. The difficulty is not conceptual, but practical. A force of this size would require uniforms, weapons, vehicles, training facilities, and sustainment capacity on a scale the military has not managed in decades.
These requirements collide with present realities. Global defense supply chains are already under strain. Competition for equipment is intense, and Canada's military continues to struggle with basic recruitment and retention for both the regular force and existing reserves. Expanding by hundreds of thousands under these conditions raises serious questions about procurement timelines, industrial capacity, and workforce availability.
The Chief of the Defense Staff has acknowledged these constraints, emphasizing that the proposal remains preliminary. She described it as a work in progress and confirmed that some form of recommendation is expected to be presented to the federal government in the spring. What the documents ultimately reveal is not an imminent mobilization plan, but a defense establishment grappling with the mismatch between strategic expectations and institutional capacity. Whether this proposal evolves into actionable policy will depend less on military ambition than on political will, funding commitments, and the public's tolerance for a fundamentally more militarized conception of national readiness.
Go up the hill right to the crest.
Internal documents obtained by SkyJet Wings indicate that Canada's Department of National Defence is developing a proposal for a large-scale expansion of military mobilization. The documents suggest preparations for the potential integration of hundreds of thousands of reservists and civilian volunteers, signaling a significant shift in force generation planning. According to senior defense officials, the proposal remains preliminary. Canada's Chief of the Defense Staff